Breaking: Canada confirms it's out of cash. Nation faces unprecedented budget shortfall. Canada is currently grappling with a significant budget shortfall, a situation that has escalated dramatically since the pandemic. The financial landscape has shifted, with rising inflation and excessive government spending leading to a precarious economic environment. As the country faces these mounting challenges, the role of the Bank of Canada and its leadership under Prime Minister Mark Carney has come under intense scrutiny. A growing number of citizens and economists are sounding the alarm, calling for greater accountability and a reassessment of the policies that led Canada into this fiscal crisis. In the aftermath of the pandemic, Ottawa launched massive stimulus packages and emergency spending measures that injected hundreds of billions into the economy. While these programs were initially aimed at providing relief, they also triggered long-term consequences. With the central bank printing money to fund government spending, inflation began to soar. Today, many Canadians are grappling with the real-world effects of that inflation, from skyrocketing grocery bills to unaffordable housing and utility costs. The illusion of prosperity created by artificial economic stimulation is now wearing off. The Bank of Canada recently began cutting interest rates, a decision that some critics interpret as a politically motivated move aimed at propping up the Liberal government's popularity before the next election. While lower interest rates can stimulate economic activity, they also risk inflaming inflation further and undermining the value of the Canadian dollar. The timing of these cuts has led many to suspect that the central bank is being used as a political tool rather than serving as an independent guardian of monetary policy. The result is growing public distrust in the very institutions meant to protect financial stability. Mark Carney, despite being hailed as a seasoned financial expert with a background at the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, has faced mounting criticism as Prime Minister. His economic record, once seen as an asset, is now viewed by many as a liability. Critics argue that under his leadership, Canada has doubled down on high taxation, regulatory overreach, and policies, such as the carbon tax, that increase the cost of living for working families. Far from stabilizing the economy, these measures appear to be worsening the financial strain on the average Canadian household. Perhaps most troubling is the Bank of Canada's own warning that the country could soon plunge into a recession, potentially deeper and more painful than the economic downturn triggered by the pandemic. A staggering 60% of Canadians with mortgages are expected to face increased monthly payments in the coming year, as fixed-rate loans renew at much higher rates. This could lead to a spike in defaults, bankruptcies, and foreclosures, particularly if the job market weakens or access to credit tightens. Many Canadians are already living paycheck to paycheck and cannot absorb further financial shocks. The affordability crisis continues to worsen. Canadians are spending more of their income on basic necessities than ever before, with food prices climbing nearly 20% in just 2 years. Rents and home prices remain out of reach for many, especially young people and new immigrants. Meanwhile, real wage growth has stagnated or declined. Middle and lower-income families are being squeezed from all sides, and the government has yet to offer a comprehensive plan to address the growing disparity between rich and poor. The dream of homeownership, once a staple of Canadian prosperity, is slipping out of reach for an entire generation. As the economic outlook darkens, the federal government and the Bank of Canada appear increasingly eager to blame outside forces. Whether it's global supply chain disruptions, foreign conflicts, or unpredictable commodity markets, the narrative from Ottawa often focuses on international events rather than acknowledging domestic mismanagement. This has frustrated Canadians who believe that the root cause of their financial hardship lies in reckless spending and poor fiscal planning. Many are demanding transparency, leadership, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about the country's economic trajectory. Public trust in government institutions is faltering. Vague platitudes and shifting blame no longer satisfy Canadians who want direct answers about the nation's finances. Calls for accountability are growing louder. Citizens want to know how we went from pandemic-era emergency spending to a structural budget deficit and whether recovery is even possible without deep cuts or tax increases. The lack of a clear roadmap has left both businesses and households uncertain about the future. Economic uncertainty discourages investment, drives capital out of the country and undermines consumer confidence. Opposition parties, particularly the Conservative Party under Pierre Poilievre, have seized the moment to draw sharp contrasts with the current government. Poilievre has positioned himself as a champion of fiscal responsibility, pledging to rein in spending, reduce taxes, and abolish what he calls inflationary policies like the carbon tax. He has criticized Carney for what he calls elitist economics, disconnected from the struggles of ordinary Canadians. Whether voters agree with his prescription or not, Poilievre has successfully made economic competence a central issue in the political debate. Carney, for his part, has offered reassurances that the economic challenges are temporary and manageable, but those words ring hollow for Canadians facing real hardship. For many, this is not just a policy debate, it's personal. It's about deciding whether to pay rent or buy groceries. It's about the stress of watching their savings evaporate and retirement dreams fade. The Liberal government's insistence that the economy is resilient feels increasingly disconnected from the lived experiences of millions of Canadians across the country. Adding to the concern is Canada's mounting debt load. The federal deficit has ballooned past $40 billion, with no credible plan to return to balance. Debt servicing costs are rising as interest rates increase, diverting public funds away from essential services like healthcare and infrastructure. Canada's once pristine credit rating is under threat, and financial markets are growing wary. Without course correction, the country risks becoming a cautionary tale of what happens when central banks and governments abandon sound fiscal management in favor of short-term political gains. On the international stage, Canada's economic challenges are making headlines. Once seen as a stable and prosperous G7 nation, the country now appears to be veering toward the same debt traps that have crippled other Western economies. Analysts have warned that if current trends continue, foreign investors may begin to withdraw capital from Canadian markets, further weakening the dollar and increasing inflationary pressures. Maintaining international confidence in Canada's economy will require difficult but necessary policy reforms. The current economic climate in Canada is fraught with challenges that require urgent attention and responsible leadership. As the nation faces this historic budget shortfall, Canadians are demanding more than political spin. They want action, clarity, and a vision for sustainable recovery. Leaders like Mark Carney must take responsibility and confront the root causes of the crisis rather than deflecting blame. The decisions made in the months ahead will shape the future of the country for decades to come. It is a moment that calls for courage, honesty, and a renewed commitment to putting the interests of Canadians first.